Okay, we are ready now for our meeting. We welcome you to the work session of our August 18th Cottonwood Heights City Council. And we'll begin with the review of the business meeting agenda. After the Pledge of Allegiance, we each have city council committee reports. And we have time for citizen comments, and we only have 2 action items. We have consideration of resolution 2026-60, declaring police canine Dave surplus and authorizing the city to enter a purchase and sale agreement. And we have consideration of resolution 2026-55, approving a consulting agreement with Kimley Horn and Associates for a CSAP, which we will also discuss in this meeting. So we'll move. And then we just have the consent calendar on those minutes from the August 4th meeting. So with that, I think we're ready to move to our work session. Unless anyone has anything.
Are we doing a closed session?
Yes, we have a closed session today. And on the staff reports, I asked for United Against Hate Week to be removed from this agenda. I think I am learning as a new mayor that I'm invited to do many things, and I'm going to pull back on some. So I am United Against Hate, but we're going to move now to the second item, Love Your Watershed Mayor's Challenge. And I'll briefly explain this, and then we can bring Soren. And Soren, you could sit on either of those chairs down here. So I received an invitation in July to join the Jordan River Commission and Watershed Council to Love Your Watershed Mayor's Challenge. And this is to help improve water quality in our natural waterways. And I think some of us forget that everything that ends up on our streets and in our yards gets into our waterways. And over time, these are ending in our storm systems, and they enter into our natural water bodies, the Jordan River and the Great Salt Lake. And this is the first year that we're seeing some significant impacts to these waterways. So this effort is asking us as mayors across the Jordan River watershed to help educate and raise awareness in our communities, and to turn simple individual and small group actions into large impacts to the better for our community. And so these would be First Friday campaigns where at least once a month we ask individuals and organizations, which could be book groups or sports teams, to get out once a month to look at their storm drains and to influence others to look at what's getting in the path of our storm drains. And then to have a day of service campaigns where we invite individuals to organize their households, neighbors, and again, other groups to get out in days of service, either on 9/11, Martin Luther King, Earth Day, or Independence Day as times when we can provide these services. And I'll just share that I see the need for this education. On a street that I regularly walk, Mill Hollow Drive, as I reported to our public work that I found white paint poured into the storm drain this summer. And so that's an example of the heightened need we have for education. These are well-educated people in my neighborhood, and it might be the people servicing their homes, but somebody, again, poured white paint down this storm drain. So I'll turn the time to Soren to tell us more about this effort. And Soren is the executive director of the Jordan River Commission, and I've had the privilege of working with him for several years and really appreciate what he brings to our community.
Thank you. I'm just in my 10th year on the staff of the Jordan River Commission, although I've been involved much longer than that in different capacities. It's good to be with you. I see some familiar faces around the table and some of you that I have not met before, so it's my pleasure. Some of you may not know that Cottonwood Heights was one of the very early members of the Jordan River Commission, although the Jordan River doesn't pass through your community because you have two of the largest tributaries. We have in the past had Cottonwood Heights as part of our commission. I think that that partnership in our interlocal agreement was terminated maybe in 2021 or so. And we've missed having you, especially as our role has expanded into not just the narrow area around the Jordan River, but the entire watershed. And one of the big challenges that the Jordan River faces today, which many of the tributaries, including both of the Cottonwood Creeks in your community face, is that all of the storm drains virtually in the valley, both Utah Valley and Salt Lake Valley, drain to our natural waterways. That may be a creek or a stream, it may be a swale, the river directly, or the lakes, both Utah Lake and the Great Salt Lake. And because much of those storm drain systems don't have filtration on them, there's a lot that ends up in the river. Chemicals, organic material like leaves and pet waste, and just an enormous volume of litter. What you see on the streets in a big storm like the ones that we had last week often ends up just being flushed into the river. Each of those different kinds of pollutants affects the river in different ways. A lot of people see leaves and say, well, that's natural, that shouldn't be harmful. But when it flushes into the river in very large volumes, which is often the case, particularly in the fall, the autumn time of the year, the microorganisms that decompose leaves, particularly in grass clippings and other organic material, consume all of the oxygen. And so literally our aquatic wildlife is starved and chokes often to death. After a big storm event, the dissolved oxygen levels plummet to near zero, and they just literally can't breathe. The litter is a visible pollutant, but often carries other harmful things with it. And much of the plastic, which is the biggest part of the litter, breaks down into microplastics, which are finding their ways into our food sources and our food chain. People consume both waterfowl in the many duck clubs around the Great Salt Lake and fish out of the Jordan River. And microplastics are finding their ways into many of those various kinds of wildlife. And then chemicals, obviously, of different kinds, both man-made chemicals and even naturally occurring things, sediment and other things in large volumes can also have some detrimental impacts. So this campaign, which we are launching this year in partnership with the 34 cities that are within the Jordan River watershed, that includes the northern part of Utah County, all of Salt Lake County, and the southern part of Davis County. We're making a concerted effort to work with all of you, particularly with your mayors, who are often visible kind of heads of their communities, to just help become influencers and shaping education and outreach and community engagement in keeping all of those things out of our storm systems by becoming part of the first line of defense. It will take generations and billions of dollars to change our infrastructure, and there are some great examples of that happening already. But many people don't understand that stormwater is not treated like the water we use inside of our buildings, our homes and our businesses, great buildings like this one, which is treated and discharged into the Jordan River. Storm drains don't get that kind of treatment, and so they just flush a lot of things that are not desirable. And as we continue to build and pave and do other things, the volume of water and the pollutants that it carries is increasing. And for the first time in many years, since the Clean Water Act in the early 1970s, we're beginning to see a decline in water quality and impacts to the Jordan River, which we haven't seen. And so we would love to have your support as a community in participating in this challenge. We're focusing on the next year because we have some grant money from the Division of Water Quality from a couple of great businesses in our community, Wells Fargo and Northrop Grumman, which have each given us some grants through their corporate foundations to do a large campaign. We're working collectively with other organizations like the Utah Lake Authority, which is also very invested in this initiative to help with water quality in Utah Lake, which is where the Jordan River begins. And the work on that water body also affects everything downstream. So we're excited to partner with communities to help us share this message. Those of you that have social media accounts, newsletters, and other ways to communicate. We would love to have you join us. We've invited mayors to help provide messaging once a month. Those first Friday messages to encourage people to get out, literally just walk out your front door and find what's accumulated on the curb and gutter and sidewalk and parking areas just outside your home or your business. And then regularly throughout the year to organize friends, neighbors, faith communities, book clubs and sports teams, whatever groups people are associated with, to get out and organize something at kind of a neighborhood scale or a business district scale and do something even larger during those days of service. People often want to come and do service at the Jordan River, which we love, and around the creeks. But some of the most important service we need right now is connected to our stormwater infrastructure. And so that's kind of what we're focusing on this year for 9/11 Day of Service and those other service opportunities throughout the year. And we hope to establish habits, because this is not a sprint, this is a marathon, and we need the whole community working with us over a sustained effort for the foreseeable future. We invite you to participate on those, the first of the month, to walk outside your front door of your home or your business, or where you spend time, and to organize your family and friends, neighbors, other groups that you're affiliated with, and then share your experiences with others and invite them to participate when they ask, what are you doing? And so we invite you to participate in all of those ways that you can as well. I'm happy to respond to any questions or comments that you might have, share additional background or information that might be helpful.
Well, I'm thrilled with this idea. I mean, I think if we asked Matt Shipp on behalf of Public Works, he would be delighted to think that, because he organized an annual educational event at our Public Works complex that is terrific. And of the, so many dozen people that go, great. But I like this idea because it's pervasive, and hopefully it'll really get the education. I'm curious if you have like a template or some little educational model or something that, as we collect people, we can share, a word to the wise. Okay, this month, the first Fridays, I'm just curious if there's a little more to it, or is it more just walking together and looking at storm drains in your neighborhood?
So we're just building out some of those materials. We have a website. We've actually had it for several years, maybe 3 or 4 years now, loveyourwatershed.org. And that takes you to our stormwater page on the Jordan River Commission's website, which is jordanrivercommission.gov. You can also find it there. Through these grants that we've received, we're creating some materials. The first of which we actually are just rolling out right now. So there's 4 primary audiences that we're targeting. The first is elementary age children. And we've actually been, over the last 6 months, developing curriculum that ties into Utah's core education standards. And we've been meeting with the school districts over the last month and educators to help get that into classrooms. We've had some great pilot programs. Murray School District and Davis County School Districts are already doing amazing work in the classrooms. We're adding to that some outdoor education, field trips, and service activities like the 9/11 Day of Service and the Earth Day, which we did with several schools in the spring, to get kids involved in this. The other groups that we're just developing materials for include the business community. We've reached out to the roughly 20 chambers of commerce, including the geographically defined chambers or the interest group defined chambers, like the Asian Chamber and the Black Chamber and the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, and some of those that are tied together by types of businesses and business owners. And we're also doing direct contact with businesses themselves. We have a lot of businesses that volunteer and do work around the Jordan River that have developed different programs for their team building and community service and things like that. And we're developing materials that they can share with family and friends and others, and those that are already doing work become ambassadors to share that message. So we're developing a lot of collateral materials. The other groups that we're working, which will kind of follow in sequence, is faith communities. We'll be doing a number of meetings with some of the interfaith councils around the Salt Lake Valley and Utah Valley in the coming months to help develop materials that might be useful for different faith communities. I've just met with a couple over the last few weeks, including the presiding bishop's office in Salt Lake City as part of the Church of Jesus Christ and the Unitarian Universalist community a couple of Sundays ago. And then the last group, which is the kind of the easiest one to connect with, although we're still trying to figure out the right methods, and those are users of our parks and trails. And that may come through signage and other things that we'll develop and put up around those locations. We'd love to share that on parks and trails in your community and many others. So we may be reaching out with some yard signs and things like that to help spread the word as well. Because those are places people love. And as they learn, there's something I can give back by, just stepping out my door and picking up litter and debris and organic materials. So those are the primary communities that we're targeting. If you have other ideas for ways we might connect with the community in your community, we'd love to hear those as well.
Yes, I would love, yes.
Are you working with the Salt Lake County Stormwater Coalition?
Yeah,
We hold it monthly, I believe. We hold it monthly.
We meet regularly with each of the 3 coalitions that encompass the Jordan River, Utah, Salt Lake, and Davis County.
Okay.
And we've shared presentations and materials with the stormwater coalitions. We're hoping that all of the MS4 permit holding entities, which includes Cottonwood Heights, will also become engaged in this through the stormwater coalitions as well.
Right.
We've developed materials to share with the Salt Lake County team that oversees the stormwater management program and the coalition. And they're integral part of this partnership.
I was gonna say, because through the MS4, one of the requirements is probably where we have to put out the education material, and part of that is we have in the coalition's pushing out mostly countywide. It's not definitely specific to Cottonwood Heights, but it's countywide. We try to push out every year the stormwater inlet, the leaves and that, especially in the fall. We start a real big campaign, social media campaign.
Yeah.
And whatnot. So yeah, I welcome the partnership. There's things we can do there. And it's a pretty low cost thing to do, and it's easy to do, and I think it's not a bad idea.
Yeah.
Certainly.
The Salt Lake County Stormwater Coalition has a phenomenal website with many resources. Our website is connected to that, as well as Utah and Davis counties. So we're cross promoting. This effort also meets the requirement for the MS4 permits. So communities that are engaging with us on this campaign to reach particularly youth and business communities, this can be something that becomes part of your annual report. And we hope that the materials we're developing and the additional background just helps support those efforts
I think it would be
for your
great.
annual reporting.
I think it would be great. It's, you try to do it, but we're specific and we really campaign. I think focus hard on our residents. I mean, with these types of materials, I think that's not a bad way to go. It would be a great partnership.
Wonderful.
Graphics would help me with that to
Yeah.
hear or to be able to reshare.
They're fun to do the graphics. So
Yeah.
people like to.
So as I get them, I will share them with our city to use in our newsletters and to all of our council and for our staff to use however they want. And we're just grateful for this initiative. So
Great.
thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the invitation. Any other questions?
Well, just out of curiosity, what is the membership cost these days to be part of the Jordan River Commission? City.
The total contribution of all of the 16 cities currently participating is about 80,000. And there's a formula that breaks that down by 3 factors. One is the total population of the municipality. One is the total area of the municipality by geographic boundary. And then the third is the linear miles of river frontage. So because there is no river frontage, that's something that would not affect if you were to participate. as part of the commission. But it's, the total amount is developed as part of our annual budgeting process. The formula is part of the interlocal agreement that breaks down what the contribution is by municipality.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
that may be
Yes.
another topic for another
Another
time.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Thank
because
you.
we have a full agenda. now.
okay, thank you.
Thank you so much. And since our agenda is full, I'm gonna try to keep us really on time today. So we have 20 minutes now for our solar options discussion.
Great.
We'll turn the time over to Councilmember Burrell.
Okay, it's 5:03. All right, well, thank you, Mayor and Council, for this chance to advance a renewable energy awareness, I will say, for what is been coined balcony solar. If Jim, you could put up the PowerPoint presentation. This came to my attention from somebody on the Parks, Trails and Open Space Committee. And where we were discussing the removal of Cottonwood Heights from the Utah Renewable Communities Program. And this person, Zach Geiger, said, well, don't lose heart, you know, what about balcony solar? And he had just bought 400-watt panels himself that, as you can see in this picture, he has in his, I believe, in his backyard. And so the presentation you're going to see now is one that Zach Geiger put together for us to look and learn. And the purpose that I'm hoping I can get feedback from the council on was Zach's idea that when he purchased these 4 panels, I believe he told me they were $200 each. And he thought that we might have more people in our community that would participate in such a program if they could get them at a discounted rate. And so if, for instance, the city were to purchase a pallet and get a significant discount, this could be a way for people to make an entry level into producing an alternative to electricity coming from the grid, which we know comes from carbon sources. So I'm not going to read these. I know everybody's capable of reading this information. And so the bottom line is, as I understand it, you go to a maximum of 4 of these panels. They literally plug in to one's home and go and begin immediately supplying electricity. As you can see, they can be mounted on a balcony railing, a patio fence, a small ground frame. There's a microinverter involved, and the electricity is fed into your home's electrical system through a standard outlet. Oh, by the way, this was Utah was the first state in the United States to allow this.
Yes.
So
Yes.
here, yes, great. And of course, the benefits, lower upfront cost than putting rooftop solar on. I know we've entertained rooftop solar, but that's quite a large commitment, and not everybody has the kind of house in surroundings that lend itself to that. It's portable. In Zach Geiger's case, he's now had it long enough that he can say that his average savings is about 33% on his electric bills. Can you wait? Let's just get the last point. And what I really like too about this balcony solar idea is you don't have to be a homeowner to do this. And so as people express the desire to participate in a cleaner airshed and environment, this can be a way that they could participate, especially if the city were to kind of incentivize this by passing along a bulk purchase discount. Which then leads us to the work Jim Spung did here. Jim, do you want to talk
Sure.
about what you gathered? And
Yeah, so this is a link, and this is just a screenshot. There's, probably 25 different makes and models and types of panels, but a pallet generally includes 36 panels and is as you see, they're about $6,000. It ranges anywhere from 5 to 10, depending on what you're looking for. But on average, it would be about 165 per panel. If you were to buy these from Amazon, for example, you'd probably pay almost double that. So it is discounted if you buy in bulk. So I think as Councilmember Burrell had mentioned, is this something the city would want to sponsor, where the city would purchase and then offer these for sale, similar to the sapling tree sale that we hold annually? So from a cost perspective, that's about what it would look like. And I imagine that residents would probably buy more than just one panel to make it worth their while. So I'm not well versed in the efficiency.
What amount of wattage are these panels?
So they're
This one is
440.
450, 435.
Yeah, so they're all about 405 up to, I can't remember the max.
I'm wondering if it would be possible to have people pre-order so that our city would not be left holding any that. You know, so it would be a cost to the city because they had been pre-ordered so that it was.
Isn't
with
that how we do the rain barrels?
Partially, so a lot of these types of things, we have to commit to a certain amount. So with the Rain Barrel program, we had to commit to buy at least 100. And then we did allow people to pre-order them, but we still are on the hook for paying whatever the fee is. The same with the tree sale. We did open it up for pre-orders, but all of the trees don't sell during the pre-order phase. So we still have to purchase them and then hopefully recoup the cost.
Well, and I'm even wondering if we tried to do a pre-buy, as the mayor's suggesting, in the event that the entire pallet didn't sell, we could 2 or 3 months later. I mean, it's a little different than a tree. Storing the trees, you have to water them and, you know, whereas if we did have some left over, we could then have a second go around a few months later, with the idea that it would be a net neutral for the city.
Yeah, or just collect pre-orders until we hit 36 orders
Yeah.
and then order
Yeah.
the pallet and then
Uh-huh.
do it again. So I guess the only trick with that is making sure that people follow through, but I'd have to check with Scott on the finance end. Can we accept payments and hold them? And if we can, how long can we hold them until we hit the 36 unit count? And then for storage, if we do end up with some extra ones, where can we store them? Because we don't have a lot of storage here at City Hall. I probably looked at Matt, but I know you guys don't have a whole lot of space at Public Works. So that's the other component, is I don't know how large these would be. I'm guessing they're not small boxes.
Yeah.
So that would be the other caveat. Scott, do you know from a legal standpoint, if can we accept money on a pre-order and then hold it for, say, 6 months? Spend it. I just don't know how the accounting side of that would work.
Well, I know how the accounting would work, but I just don't know if it's legal. That's not something that a government
Okay.
usually gets involved in. We're getting out there in the fringes of what we typically, get involved in. And so I'd have to do a little bit of research into that because it's just not normal. So.
What if there was a system whereby people signed up for how many panels they wanted? And then we told them, when we reach the threshold, we're gonna ask for your payment. So we don't take payment until we get the 36 commitments. And at that point,
Can
if
we
people don't
go
put their money where
strong
their
if they
mouth
don't?
is,
Follow through with their payment. I mean, this is where we're getting like a business and we're not equipped to be able to handle that. We don't have a collections process. We don't have, a strong arm person to go out and say, hey, you didn't follow through on your commitment to buy, your XYZ panel and so on and so forth. We're just not equipped to be able to do that.
Yeah.
Typically, businesses will charge an up cost, and it's for those types of work, of things that have to be done. It's storing, things, maintaining the purchase records and all these other things. These are not things that we're equipped to be able to do, nor is our accounting system equipped to be able to do it.
I'm just wondering, hearing that from Scott, I'm wondering if something like the Recycling Utah would be able to add this to their portfolio, or some other nonprofit that's in our area that could expand to.
well, that's a great idea. I could check with Robbie Oberson because he might have an insight on this, because often people that want to recycle also want to do their part with renewables. So that's a great idea.
Yeah, or even just any other citizen groups, because really the only benefit for the city doing it is we're tax exempt. But that's outside of that, anybody could go on the site and purchase a pallet and resell
Do
them.
it.
So, I mean, if someone's neighborhood wanted to all pitch in and buy a pallet together, that's great. I think it's just getting the word out to people that this is an option. But on the city's end, we're happy to help facilitate it. Just, there's some things that we'd have to figure out to do that.
Yeah.
Then there's 2 more slides.
Okay. Yeah.
So Zach sent these over. This is his example on what his panels are actually producing. And then this slide shows his earnings, those or savings, I guess.
Was that in only a 4-month period? He had earned,
It looks like January through August.
oh,
That's
so.
what he's
okay.
showing.
So you say.
So about $30 a month.
So these have almost, I mean, less than a 1-year recuperation for your expense versus like rooftop, which is 20
Oh.
years or.
Remember, he has
Right.
4 panels.
Right.
Yeah, so he's probably 600.
It's probably 200.
Well, I'm in that same boat. I would have to cut down my trees, which seems counterintuitive to have to, destroy trees, 60-foot trees that are actually taking in carbon. Versus, having solar. So this would be a great option.
For a lot of
me,
people.
For us.
Yeah, especially people, again, who live in smaller, houses. I always find it amusing that, well, the grass works, but tight on time. So any other, thoughts or how do you
Do
feel
you
about
want
it,
to say
Councilman?
anything? Okay.
So I'm trying to say it's not. It's
the volume.
We can find ourselves in trouble. We need to find somebody who's willing to take this on as an outside project and just, as municipality, I think we can promote it and say, for our residents, but for us to be the ones that.
I think what lit Zach Geiger's imagination on this was the tree sale. He said, gee, we do an annual tree sale where we pass along the savings, on the trees. And so he wondered.
Trees is different from the leftover.
Trees we just get to plant in our
Exactly.
own properties.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So we take up that excess.
yeah.
I think it's a great idea. I want to commend you and Zach Geiger for bringing it to our attention, and I think it's definitely something we should promote.
Yeah.
People do and be aware of soon as.
So
Yeah.
if we can find a group
So I
that
need
would
those trees.
promote that.
Yeah, then they could use our parking lot space like we do for the Charm event, the Hard to Recycle event.
Yeah.
And why not, like the day of the Charm
Right,
event, there was or was it the tree sale event? There was the shred event, there was the
Take back the-
event about the
take back the
child
prescriptions.
protection, yeah. So the more that we can use our parking lot, maybe quarterly for things where the community can come together and for good purposes.
Hillside, let's do it at Hillside.
Yeah, Hillside, great.
Space.
All right, we're ahead of time
Thank
on
you,
this
there we
one.
go.
Okay, we'll turn the time back to Jim Spunk for our short-term rental discussion.
All right, thank you, Mayor. Let me share my screen again. So I've got about 10 slides I'm going to run through just to provide you all with an update on things that we've been working on.
And I want to excuse Councilmember Holton. He's just out briefly for a short trip, but he'll be right back.
Okay. So I just have this in for context, just for the minutes of what is a short-term rental. So it's just like it sounds, a rental of a space for less than 1 month or less than 30 days. So as a little background, the city's been working on this for quite a while. We've created a short-term rental committee to help, engage residents and planning commissioners and others interested to come up with some policy updates. We're at the gateway, or we're a gateway city to 2 major recreation canyons. Was it 12 million visitors past the city?
9 million.
9 million.
14% of visitors who come to Salt Lake County go to the canyons.
Yeah, so I think, there's obviously a lot of tourism happening in our backyard and here in the city itself. So short-term rentals are becoming way more prevalent on our radar. So I thought it'd be helpful to run through what we currently allow with regard to short-term rentals. So we do allow them as a conditional use permit. They're only allowed in the R28, RM, MU, NC, and RO zones. But there's some caveats. It has to be part of a planned unit development or a condo. It has to have at least 8 units part of that development, and it has to front or have access on a private street. So it's a pretty narrow window for properties that are eligible for a short-term rental. I have a map that I'll show in just a second of what that looks like on the ground. The current code prohibits short-term rentals in all other areas, including single-family zones. And today we have 108 active licenses in Cottonwood Heights. So this map shows the green areas where, based on the code, they would be eligible. And then the red areas are where they're not allowed. So you can see it's pretty restrictive here. However, we still do have over 100 that are licensed. These are the 108 shown primarily in the District 4 area. And then with Granicus, the enforcement or the compliance software that we're partnering with, they've shown that we have about 301 short-term rentals throughout the city that are not licensed. And you can see they're scattered pretty evenly throughout the entire community. So this is also a big driver that's driving these conversations and discussions about potential policy changes. Is it's happening. How do we capture the potential revenue from those unlicensed short-term rentals? But how do we also, more importantly, ensure that those properties are not creating problems for the neighborhoods, to have some licensing, some type of oversight and accountability for those that are operating. So right now, the current process for getting a short-term rental license is you need the conditional use permit first. It takes 6 to 7 weeks generally from application to approval of that part of the license. It costs $350. It generally takes about 10 hours of staff time to do the application intake, prepare a staff report. We have to have a public administrative hearing for each one today. So we have to post and mail a notice, hold the meeting, create the agenda, have someone there to record the minutes. And that's the administrative hearing officer that handles those hearings. We hold those once a month. And then after that process, they're then eligible to apply for the business license, which allows them to actually operate the short-term rental. And that follows the same business license procedures in the city. So you can see that it takes, 10 to 20 hours of staff time to process one short-term rental permit as of today. So that's something that we're looking to update, and I'll talk about that here in a second. So these are some bullets that the committee and Councilmember Highland and the mayor have helped craft. And really today, we're hoping to get some input and weigh in from the council on, if this is the right direction. So one big point is to require the applicant to sign an affidavit saying that they are compliant with the standards. That could be the initial next to each standard saying that they understand and are complying. Really as an accountability measure if enforcement does need to take place. Requiring operators to have some type of education. And there's different venues that provide education. So it's kind of like a good landlord training where they understand, essentially how to be a good operator. The standards would ultimately hold the property owner responsible as the owner of the property. I think that makes a lot of sense. Require someone locally to be able to respond to any issues or complaints within 1 hour. So you can't have, an out-of-state or out-of-country owner and operator. That someone has to be here that can respond. Limit the number of properties that any one operator can manage in the city. Implement a 3 strikes rule, and that generally would reset each year when the license is renewed. You're given 3 more strikes. We'll have to talk with code enforcement to see what constitutes a strike. Is it if you actually get a citation? If someone calls and complains, how do we legitimize that it's an actual legitimate complaint versus someone that's just complaining because they don't like it? But that's a policy that makes the owner accountable to say, hey, if you mess up, you're going to lose your licenses and you may not be eligible to get another license for 6 years or 5 years or however long the council decides. And then to adjust the fees so that any fees that are paid to get the license offsets our administrative and enforcement costs associated. So a few things to consider. As I mentioned, we have a lot of short-term rentals that are operating without a license. So, providing an opportunity for those to get a license, I think is important. Another thing that we've talked about is requiring that someone had to have owned their home for at least 1 year before they can apply for the short-term rental. So that would help prevent, you know, investors coming in, buying a property and then immediately making it a short-term rental. This policy would say that you have to own the home for at least a year before you can apply for the rental. Establish a cap on how many licenses the city will issue. That number is still to be determined. As of right now, there's about 400 operating in the city, 100 licensed, 300 that are not. And then,
And is that snapshot summer, or did that also consider like how many more might be listed in the winter months that aren't listed?
that's active right now, so that doesn't consider the winter months. Let's see, prohibit short-term rentals in apartments or other affordable units. So right now our code requires them to be in a condo or a multifamily unit. So this would shift that philosophy to say that it cannot be in an apartment or an affordable unit. And then obviously short-term rentals would not be transferable if you sell the property. Again, that same standard would apply. If you sell it to someone, they would have to wait at least 1 year to apply for their own license. So these are some of the rationales that the committee had come up with, and it's really providing an opportunity for people to come into compliance. They're here now. If we just say that they're still prohibited forever, that's going to drive them to the black market and operate illegally, and then that just places a bigger burden on the city to then enforce all the illegally operating short-term rentals. We're hoping this will bring more compliance to the community. And also generate some revenue for the city with licensing and other things. Again, as I mentioned before, as well as make everyone a better neighbor, because if they're agreeing to the rules and the threshold that the city establishes, then we can hold them accountable to that. And then as far as the strategy, and this is something else that we wanted to talk about, short term, update the city's ordinances to streamline the review procedures. So as I mentioned, a conditional use permit is required in addition to the license. We can streamline that and make it one process that doesn't take 6 weeks to approve. We can change that. Integrate some of these new licensing and operating standards that we reviewed, and then shifting from a criminal enforcement philosophy to a civil enforcement philosophy, which gives the city a lot more discretion and authority in how we enforce and when. And it also keeps any revenues from fees here with the city for any infractions. We're also going to finalize the integration of the Granicus software that's our compliance monitor. We are currently building an online application portal and payment portal to again reduce the paper and help streamline the review process on the staff's end. And then one question is do we prioritize compliance for short-term rentals that are currently operating that are eligible? So any that are illegally operating in those green areas on the map, make those a priority. And then in the long term, we can reevaluate where the short-term rentals are allowed in the community. So if we want to expand that geographical window to say, we're now allowing them in neighborhoods, what does that look like? But those are conversations we can have after these other short-term items are addressed. And then over time, we're going to have to recalibrate the standards just to match what Cottonwood Heights needs. I think this is a good first take, but it's likely we'll come back with some tweaks to certain standards. So, Councilmember Highland, is there anything you wanted to add?
I mean, I could certainly address any questions that came up. We sent out memo to the entire council, I think it was last month, and asked for any comments or to, just offered to address any questions. It does seem like we can't ignore this anymore. And if we were to try to play whack-a-mole, and right now we don't even have code enforcement officers to do this. And so in my estimation, it could cost hundreds of thousands of dollars every year to just keep the illegal properties from operating. And so this seems to be a good compromise. I used that word earlier today, where we come together and say, you know what? Like, we want to have people that are in compliance, and that's an enviable license. It makes that we have a high bar. And so I think that you'll get rid of what I think it was Granicus called the dodgy Daves, the people that, really want to dodge the rules, and you'll incentivize more of the compliant Karens. I thought that was a pretty good analogy to think about of this, but if the council has any questions or concerns about some of these, we could address them now.
I like this, but I still get a sense of being passive in the way that we're going after these. This is something that is not in compliance with our policies and the regulations. We should not be passive about going after these and getting them to be compliant. There's communities where I've rented before and they're pretty strict. I mean, everything is strict in those cities and, people don't pull around. We need to quit dancing around this and get after it and put things in place that we can actually monitor and we can actually, do something about. We talked about the fines and raising those. Apparently that's not enough. But we have to get compliance somehow. Because again, this is another source of revenue that we're missing out on as a city. And that should be justification enough for us to say, let's do this now. Where it's gonna cost us a couple $100,000. We need to look at technology and things to help us out a little bit, but we need to move forward. We need to make this happen.
We
So-
miss revenue in two ways. The TRT that we're due, but also any property that is used for short-term rental isn't being occupied by primary resident was not subject to the residential exemption. So they pay property tax on the full amount of their property value instead of just 55%. So, and then if, just briefly, Chief Russo, could you tell us why enforcement is so difficult by explaining what's happened with this Danish Pine Lane that we've been working on for a year or more? And I still don't think that is resolved. That's one. Do you have an update on that? Keeps
One in
getting punted.
particular, generally speaking.
Generally speaking, but it gets punted. It keeps getting punted in the court process.
It does. I don't think there's an appetite in our court system to pursue these, either from the prosecution or from the court itself. So I've talked to Nakamura's about enforcement. They had a great suggestion that a hybrid model would be the way to go, and that your AOJ might be a viable option as long as you have a criminal option as well, and you could fall back on. To your question on why this keeps getting punted, I don't know. I mean, you've asked for updates, and I go to the prosecutor in the court, and it's been continued, or there's a motion filed, but they've allowed it.
One that we've been trying to get rid of for more
Yeah.
than a year.
And this is a topic I have worked on
Oh,
for 5 years. And it's a problem around the state, around the country. I went to a national conference about short-term rentals. So I would say that we are following best practices with what Jim shared and with what we're proposing for our city. And we had a short-term rental town hall at the end of June. And we had a short survey for the people that were in attendance for that. And they were in support of what we are planning, firmly in support, because what's happening currently is with 300 that don't have licenses, there is no way we can adequately enforce. It would take so much money. But by having the ability for them to try to get a license and have that bar be significantly high, that the people that are lazy, that don't want to take education, that don't want to have these higher standards, maybe they'll turn to being a long-term rental. Maybe they'll sell, it will change the dynamics in positive ways. After 5 years of studying this, I'm convinced that it will bring those that are going to get a license into compliance, where we have an inspection that our city does not pay for. We contract with someone, then it's paid for through that licensing fee. So it just will make the whole thing much better and bring those that we've not been able to get into compliance to either not get a license, and then we really go after.
Well, it certainly seems to me that if Jim Spung's staff is spending 6 hours on CUP And then another, I mean, the amount of hours that your staff is spending for each of these licenses is inordinate.
Yeah.
And through the Granicus process, time is whittled down to, 30 minutes? I mean, it was dramatically different.
It'll be less time, but yeah, and that's why that first bullet point is so critical is the first step before we really do much is we have to update our process, because right now I just did the math. If we're licensing 300 applications that are non-compliant and it takes about 15 hours total, that's 4,500 hours of staff time.
Which is two full-time, two FTEs,
Mhm.
2,000 hours a year is, so
Yeah, so
can't do
It's-
that either.
I think that's the huge hurdle that is not a difficult one to cross, is just update the process.
Well,
You
and
know, eliminate the hearing, streamline the application process, getting the information we need up front. So that's stuff that will help maybe whittle it down to 1 or 2 hours of staff time per.
And I think this sends very clear message. I mean, this is exactly what you need to do. And this is, there'd be people in this listening arena today who say, well, gosh, we don't want to encourage it. I don't think that we're encouraging that more of our housing inventory go to STR. We already know that a percentage is going to it. So what we're trying to do is contain this problem, deal with it in a way that is, possible. I mean, to say we're going to get everybody into compliance. I mean, our code enforcement can, in my opinion, can barely stay on top of all the different things that they are expected to do in many different areas, from dogs to all these things. And so I think it's unrealistic to think we're going to wave a wand and get, some kind of compliancy and knock out these 300 illegals. So for all the reasons that the mayor is and Councilmember Highland have brought up, I am in support of moving ahead on this. I'm looking at one of my constituents here, and he lives in a very nice neighborhood in District 4. And so, yeah, are there some problems, short-term rentals? Sure, I could get on the phone with one in a different neighborhood, which there is one. But I don't think it's pervasive. All of us who have used Airbnbs, and I've used them around the country and in some other countries, and they're often the most well-kept in the neighborhood. So I don't think that they're a blight per se, especially if they are conforming and they have to do that in order to get the kind of rental fees that they would get through Airbnb or VRBO. And so.
I can share a couple thoughts that have come. Thanks for letting me step out and go to the pharmacy to kick this migraine, so I appreciate that. Sorry for stepping out, but I will tell you short term, I'm fully supportive short term. I've communicated this, I think, for the last couple of years, and this is kind of where I am when it comes to the long term. I'm doing my homework. I'm talking to folks in my district to figure out what they're comfortable with. I think that if we were ever to expand in a way that it would impact anyone in a long-term rental, and I'm not saying it will, but if that were to happen, I'm going to personally have a hard time going down that path. We have seen many instances in my kids' school. There's a lot of people that are in rentals that are filling those schools, and I think it's super important to keep a thriving school community. And I know there's statistics, and I know there's a lot of things on what the percentages look like before it impacts people. I'm just saying that if I feel like we're going down a path where I feel like that could happen or may happen, I'm just going to be a little more hesitant. And again, when it comes to expanding them, I think this is one of those issues, and I've said to my colleagues here, I know it's shocking because I have opinions on a lot of things. This is one of those where I don't have a strong opinion. And so I've been trying to spend as much time as I can talking to people to figure out what do they want when it comes to short-term rentals in their neighborhood. And I'm still getting that feedback. But short-term, I think everyone's in agreement that we should go down that path. The expansion is the part that I need to do some more thinking on.
So I wonder did we record that town hall with for the short-term rental art parks?
I believe it was recorded, yeah, right?
And then that could be something that you could have a little town hall for your districts and have people come in and see what we shared and have a discussion with your residents. So we have time while we're in the short term. The problem with us taking very long with this is that we do not want to attract people to purchase homes for this purpose in our city. So if we're going down this road, we need to move.
I don't know what our cap is yet, but we also called on every council member to at least suggest where, if there are some places in your district where you think it should not be, that you make those suggestions, and the mayor talked about one particular in my district that would make a lot of sense. So I do think there's some opportunity to minimize the.
And
what
to
you're
cap it where
concerned
it
about.
is. That's the beauty is we say we're stopping it here. So
When you say where it is, meaning, because
if there are 400 right now in our city, that we say, we decide what number and say this is the number, and it's not more than that, it's that or less. And then we won't look around in 2 years and say, oh, now there's 600.
there's a,
Because we
Not
did,
gonna allow that.
yeah, there's a little part of me that's a little worried that, you know, we may create a system where there's a home that wanted to be a short-term rental, saw that it wasn't zoned as a short-term rental, said, it's not legal, I'm not doing it, but yet we're gonna take those that weren't following the rules and tell them you're now legal, and the other home that didn't
They
do
have
it's gonna
to-
think,
it's gonna be open to anyone.
you know,
in the
shoot, I didn't
city.
do it.
Anyone in the city
Yes.
would be able to come if we do it that way, that's not in a restricted area, and apply. They have to meet all of these criteria to get it. And there's a set number, there's not more than what is.
We'll establish a process for
And a wait
first come,
list.
first served and wait lists and all of that. And I agree with you. I'm one of those people, like I followed the rules.
Yeah.
Don't penalize me.
Yeah.
Because I followed the rules. So that's an important consideration, of course.
I guess one last thing, Mayor, just to speak to that point of geographically where they're allowed or not. I guess it's from the city's policy and administrative standpoint, it's a trade-off, right? So we can define where they're located and enforce it based on that, right? So right now we'd be enforcing, it'd be a heavy enforcement to get all the non-compliant ones out. Or we changed where the bar is and say, we're gonna open it up to more areas to allow for those that are currently operating to get a license. But the trade-off there is that now we're licensing a bunch of them. So it's either a heavy licensing burden or a heavy enforcement burden. And there's trade-offs with either one. And I don't think one is right or wrong. It's really just a policy decision on what's best for the community, I think.
And I think this is one of those where the community really needs to let us know what they want. Because this is, again, impacting their
Should we
neighborhoods.
have another town hall like we did with the same format and same education?
After we have the processes
Yeah.
in place, what the new regulations are, I think that's a good possibility.
Yeah.
My goal in working with staff, I really appreciate how much work they're doing, because Granicus isn't all we thought it would be. So I was really hoping this would be a lot more automated. But since then, we found out that Casella can actually take the application and payment portal. My goal would be to whittle this process down to less than an hour of staff time per license.
Yeah.
Because if you're talking about 400, that's still 400 hours. That's what, 10 weeks of somebody's full-time work doing nothing else.
And no matter what we decide in the city, we should stream. I'm 100%.
Yeah.
There's a lot that
That's
can be
that
streamed
process
and
step.
should.
And an affidavit is really standard. I mean, we looked at a lot of communities, and that's a standard. So all of these things have emerged as best practices in an industry that we're not all thrilled with, but we do have to deal with. admit
And
it is
we
the-
are the place people want to come. If there are limited numbers of places up the canyons where they can go, so we are where they want to be. And Sandy, so if our standards are higher, that more of them will go to our neighboring communities that don't have these standards.
That's true.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
Well, please get back to us if there's certain
Yeah.
areas you want us to consider for exclusion. Any other concerns you have?
If you ever want to talk about it.
Yeah, and town halls.
Yeah, I mean,
Absolutely.
I've done it, yeah.
Is there anything else on this topic, or are we again ending early?
Oh, way to go.
Oh, good.
So much.
Okay.
I guess I should have.
Okay. So it sounds like, Jim, you have the support for that short-term work.
Great.
Yes.
Okay.
Short-term work on short-term rentals.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
And plan. Yeah.
Okay, and then our next is our citizen budget committee requirements. We'll turn the time for this to Jerry Kirby.
Thanks, Mayor. So we wanted to get this in front of you so that we can start advertising. We want to do this similar to some of the other volunteer positions we've done. Hopefully you've had a chance to take a look at it. look at the requirements that we're recommending. Scott and I spent some time. We appreciate the previous, ad hoc committee that we put together with citizens and the work they did. One of the things that we came back with is there's a lot to understand in municipal budgeting that I think Scott and I take for granted. And trying to convey that and help people understand that. So that's kind of where these requirements came from. We're talking about doing a 3-member committee plus 2 members of the council to kind of keep it manageable and really be able to dive into things with this. So I don't want to go through these in detail unless you really want to. Hopefully you've had a chance to look and then just discuss anything that may be in here that you don't want in here, or additional requirements or requests in here before we'd like to get this advertised so we can hopefully have a committee put together by September. By the end of September.
I really am grateful that you did this. I kind of advocate that you don't ask a fish to climb a tree. And this really is so specialized that, and we have, to Councilmember Burrell's point often says, we have such great experience in our community. I even say because we're the oldest average age community, we have retirees who have great experience and expertise. And so I look forward to finding 3 people with some great background and qualifications who can really help us dive deep and establish some better processes, ratios, 5-year budgets, and give us the advice, maybe even performance-based budgeting about how we can do this year to year and have a lot of confidence in our budgeting process, the decisions that we're making. As for me, for the past 2 years, it's been a little bit of a moving target, and I would appreciate this kind of expertise.
So I'm sorry, I didn't get a chance to review this in the level I like to think I normally do. How many people would be on the committee? Or does it indicate that?
We're looking at three members of the community, mainly because this is a citywide issue that we're looking at as far as the budget. We're looking at how to budget, not necessarily where we're spending money at, but how to budget overall. So we wanted to keep it small with 3 members from the community and then 2 members of the council as well to give us input.
Well, I mean, the logical thing to me would be, since as Councilmember Highland likes to bring up, 7 is the ideal numbers for most.
7 is
committees and some-
the
Max.
maximum number.
Yeah, maximum number,
Yeah.
but I don't see how you're gonna do this without, I think it should be squarely shared with the 4 districts. I mean, to say,
I think it's overall.
Yeah,
do
this
too.
is different because these are applications that will be open for anyone in the city to apply. And again, the topic is citywide. And so anyone can apply throughout the city. So we don't want to, we want it, if they have all of this, great, from wherever they are in the city. Because they're not, it's not like if we had another committee that was geographically necessary to have input, like for parks and
Or
trails and
historic.
space.
well,
and
why would we require municipal experience?
Because these
Because-
budgets are different than a corporate budget.
Well, but I think we're trying to get the perspective of people who understand and can ask questions, and I don't know if I don't agree that, I mean, I do think municipal, but I think there can be training. I think that these people should get
I would say municipal preferred, and if we can't get the qualifications that we would desire.
I mean,
then we
some
would
of the
have to
problem
have
that we have is that we didn't have an outside audit these last years to get perspectives other than the municipal staff and those of us that were elected. So,
I guess that's influenced by my perspective, my experience is that here I have a lot of corporate budgeting experience, and it took me 2 years to still wrap my arms around municipal budgeting.
yeah, but
So
I think we
because
also,
having that kind of expertise preferred is highly desirable.
well, some of the more creative people that I know who are also highly educated and have given me some great advice in recent years do not come from a municipal background. So it's a double-edged sword there. I really,
I think that's where Jared he uses his discretion. Because you'll be the one that interviews
Right.
and picks, and we will
And-
vote to.
And I mean, I think you're right. I think it should probably be under preferred. We're really looking for, if there's somebody with a great financial background that then can be brought in to understand how municipal finances work, because they're completely different from personal finances, from business finances. I've been doing it for
Really is.
25 years and I'm still lost at times. So Scott's having to clarify things for me all the time. So that's really where it comes down to, is just how, I mean, you can't just look at a line item in our budget and say, well, we're gonna cut this, because there's certain things and certain ways that we have to budget and we have to account for that. That you need to really understand what that line item does and why it sits where it sits. So I think maybe we can move that down to preferred, but I think,
Well, and I
That's-
want to know that these meetings are gonna be, meetings of this group are gonna be available to the public.
Is that the plan of these?
I don't know if that's, that we have to.
it wasn't the intent, just
Yeah.
because there's so much we have
It's
to
the
get
committee
into.
meetings, but
Well, our
They're-
committee,
they're
all of
meetings have
all of our
minutes.
citizen committee meetings, should start with public comment and are available for anybody in the public to come and listen to.
I'm
But they're
not
not
agree
making
with
a
that.
decision. They are basically gonna be
Analyzing.
consultants and analyzing.
Well,
So
so
that-
are all our other citizen committees. They
There
don't
could be so much
legislate, they meet-
misunderstanding based on what's talked about in a.
I don't think we're
this
closing
guide.
the public,
Right.
but they won't, they're not, they'll follow the same rules with as the other committees with minutes and.
Yeah.
And everything that we have in there and posted agendas.
Well, I think it created a lot of challenges when the Citizen Envisioning Committee for the Hillside Plaza was not made available to the public to come and listen in on these deliberations. So I really, it's something I see very clearly, that our city needs more transparency, and I would not support this committee unless people could come and sit and listen.
It sounds like they could.
Yeah, they
They
can
could.
come.
Well, but if we never announce when they're, you know, it should be
That's
on
what
the
I'm saying.
calendar like any other citizen
That's what I
committee.
just said. We'll follow the same regulations and processes that the other committees have. We need to look at them.
Because we didn't do, and I'm just pointing out, this was before your time, Jared, but we did not do that with the Citizen Envisioning Committee. They were, the day, I didn't even know when they were meeting. Okay, I'm just being emphatic,
Okay.
because this is something that I have my constituents tell me. Ellen, we want more transparency. We want the newsletters to be more beefy and tell us what's going on, and so this is something important to them. Okay, thank you.
That's our dual Hilton, but how do you weigh in?
I'm looking forward to it. I think it'll be nice to have a group of people that are professionals that understand these types of budgets to come in and start to sift through the weeds.
I don't have strong opinions on the number. I think the qualifications make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
What I'm most interested in are that my hope is that we can get a group of people that can dive into it and come with suggestions on ways that we can improve things. And I think we all have the mission here, as we've gone through the truth in taxation, as we're looking for years ahead, everything we can do to be as efficient as possible, to be as responsible to taxpayers as possible. I've got ideas. I know we're gonna probably have another time to talk about some things I think we could improve on. So I'm excited to see what these individuals come up with.
Me too.
And this first round will be pretty quick, because I know we feel like we have a year before our next budgeting, but we're starting to talk
We do
about that
not.
in October, so.
I know.
It's year round.
Yes. Thank you.
Yes. All right, then our final item on this agenda is our CSAP scope of work, and we'll turn the time to Matt Shipp.
Mayor and council, thank you. We presented a scope of work for a comprehensive safety action plan specific to Cottonwood Heights. At the last meeting, if you'll recall, we received a grant of $500,000 from the federal, from the feds to do this. It's an 80-20 grant. And it is for, we worked with the federal feds to make this a citywide comprehensive safety action plan as opposed to site specific. We presented a scope of work from a contract engineer, Kimley Horn. In reviewing that, the city council at the last meeting had some suggestions and ideas to help beef this CSAP up and to bring forward some ideas that they would like to see in it. Staff was asked to work with a gentleman from another municipality as a consultant, first to review the proposal and to make comments and recommendations. And then as well to work with that gentleman in a role in developing this city CSAP. We met with him, and in that discussion, he agreed to review the CSAP and make comments. And we also developed a framework of how his time could be spent working with the city as we develop a comprehensive safety action plan for Cottonwood Heights. That was done. He made comments. Those comments were incorporated into the scope. And I sent out last week, I believe it was last week, on Thursday, a copy of that updated scope based on those recommendations. There were also some questions we asked at that meeting. At that meeting, specifics were asked, and Councilmember Burrell submitted a list of specifics she wanted to discuss and look at. I sent out an email as well that I attached the scope to, trying to address some of those questions and where they fit in and how they would be a part of this. So you have the scope now. As you asked that we go back and revamp, I've done that. We also presented a contract at the last meeting to work with Kimley Horn. This changes in this scope adjusted the scope fee by about $49,000, $50,000 roughly, which bumps the city's obviously the city's portion. Don't ask me to do the math in my head, about $70,000 versus whatever the other number was. 20% of the $350 is what the city's portion would be in this study. So now if we choose to sign this agreement, we would ask that the motion, thank you. Jim just popped it up for me. Thank you, Jim. 70,000 would be our match. The city, we would ask that if you decide to move forward with this, that you authorize the contract for the mayor to sign the agreement with the caveat that the contract originally listed in there, we can adjust and work with the city attorney as well as the consulting engineer to adjust the fee in the contract to reflect what's in the scope. So now you have before you the scope as was asked, and we brought it back for discussion. And at that point, I don't have much more to add, except that was the history of it, and this is where we are in bringing it forward.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you for taking the time to meet with that individual and to rework the scope. What are comments from our council members?
Well, I'll go ahead and address this because it was Councilmember Burrell and I that brought this to the council retreat in 2025. And we said we wanted, a CSAP, and we were thinking maybe we got $50,000. And then as we got into the process of what would this entail, what would we get back out of it? I think our intentions were really great. We wanted to see this prioritization matrix, but as we've gotten more into the processes of what we might actually get out of this, as a business person, one of the things I say, you've got to know when to cut your losses. And while I want to say how grateful I am for Matt Shipp and everybody who's been working on this, but given our budget situation and this moving from a $50,000 to $70,000 with some unknowns, I am actually going to withdraw my support for doing a CSAP.
Councilmember Burrell.
Well, I appreciate your comments, and I appreciate that you have, since you've been in office, taken an interest in trying to delve into this safe systems approach. From everything I can understand about safe systems approach, it's based on Vision Zero. It's based on a risk assessment. And what I see in this Kimley Horn contract is still too heavily weighted toward the kind of heavy analysis that we've already been doing as a city. We have marvelous master plans that give us guidance on how to proceed and advance from bicycle trails to the Fort Union Boulevard Master Plan, the Wasatch Boulevard Master Plan. The safe systems approach is to take things incrementally and to understand through really intense interaction with the community. And I'm not seeing that in this scoping. The level of involvement of the community is something that I would need to see to want to take the risk, as you said, of the ongoing drain that this grant that, and I'm not saying there could be a time in the future, and I don't know how long we have to be able to avail ourselves of this particular grant approval, but it's strictly for planning. So it would be my preference to use what Eduardo Miranda from UDOT told me today at the bike summit that I attended, that there is a mechanism called the safety audit. He said he didn't understand why our community wasn't using safety audits. That really, then you're not encumbered by the Kimley Horns and Forex and these very sophisticated companies that charge a lot of money. And these safety audits can be a combination of your chief engineer and your, someone from the police department and, individuals. We have an active transportation subcommittee, and I know I would certainly volunteer on behalf of the council to bring my understanding and expertise to this. And I would rather see us do something more based on quarterly safety audits and advance affordable than to go down the path of another year or more worth of analysis, which still would not necessarily analyze and advance the neighborhood byways and things that I think there needs to be. Again, this is not just Ellen, this is part of the safe systems approach. And I just think that UDOT's zero fatalities program has proven to statistically not be aiming down to zero fatalities. So we need to use a system that is being proven around the country and other communities to actually reduce serious injury and fatalities.
Yeah, I think we've been talking about this for quite a while. And so I think I was in a position wanting to be supportive of my colleagues who have put a lot of time into this. So if you feel like it's best to pivot, I'm good with pivoting. I think at the end of the day, I hope that we do get to a point where, and this may be way down the road, where we can try to communicate to our residents that the things that are getting fixed and the things that are being addressed, there is a methodology to that process. And I hope that we can get there, whatever that looks like. So I'm supportive, I guess, of either way. So sounds like if we want to pivot, that's okay as well.
And I'm in the same boat. I was really supportive of this, but looking at these budgetary issues is a concern of mine. Every dollar counts right now, and we've just gone through a taxing process of, no pun intended, trying to get down the right road, and adding additional cost at this time for me is difficult to justify.
I think what's really good out of this process, and thank you, Councilmember Burrell, for allowing me to meet with this person that we've been talking about, that it does model a way where for a lot less money, we can start looking at risk and maybe incorporating that into our processes so that we're not just ignoring it, but we're not doing it with a $400,000 or $350,000 contract, and then that's a static report rather than an ongoing report. So more discussion. We're not abandoning the commitment to safety. We're just saying that maybe this isn't the way to go right now.
And I want to thank Matt Shipp sincerely because as I've just been serving for 8 months, I just see the great amount of patience he has to have with working with us. As we, I can say for myself, I did not review the scope. I've read the rest of the packet. I didn't get to the scope enough because of the other pressing issues we've had this week. And I just really commend him for listening to us and meeting with that person and fitting more into the scope. And it's definitely a high priority for our city. So we need to, I'm gonna study the scope further. And Matt, is there a timeline that we are dealing with?
Mayor, I'm gonna have to look into that.
Okay,
It was held off for a very long time, like we said, due to the elections and the change in leadership on the federal level. There were a lot of things there, so I don't know. I think there was if I recall, there was a 5-year once it was signed. I don't quote me for sure, but I remember thinking there was like a 5-year window. But I'll find that out and I'll email it to the council
okay,
and then we can go from there.
okay. Thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you sincerely.
Yep,
Because,
Pleasure.
and I just want to remind our council, whenever I have asked to meet with our Public Works Director, he has been quick to do that and to help me understand, because these are things like the budget where I don't know enough. And he has been quick to help me understand things. And I think we've been able to move things forward that had been on the list. And I hope we can continue to do that because he's ready. He's got many things ready for us, so I appreciate that. Okay, then we're ready for our review of calendars and upcoming events. Tomorrow, we have senior bingo on Tuesday, August 19th at 1 p.m. in the community room.
It's actually Wednesday.
It's Wednesday.
Yes, sorry.
Yes, today is Tuesday.
Yeah.
It is Wednesday, August 19th. And I know several of us from the council usually are able to attend and meet with our residents. It's a great opportunity to be with them. And then on Thursday, next week, on August 27th, we have our Cottonwood Heights book group from 7 to 8:30 in the community room. And we're reading the book,
The Righteous
The
Mind.
Righteous Mind by Jonathan Haidt, How Good People Can Be Divided by Politics and Religion.
Imagine that.
And so I think it's a great time for us to talk about this. It's always, yes. Then we have our CERT refresher. I'm glad it's here on the list on Thursday, September 17th at 7 p.m. in the community room. And the Monster Mash Trunk or Treat on Thursday, October 22nd at Hillside Plaza.
Which we're now calling the spectacular.
Spectacular.
Yes.
Good.
Kind of pushing, moving everything together.
Yes.
Great.
Okay. Right, then, with that, I think,
Do you want to go into a closed session? for-
yes,
What's the phrase, purchase of property?
yeah, do we close this meeting?
Yeah, so you're gonna close need a motion to close the meeting and open the closed session.
Oh, I created this,
Oh.
this list.
There you go.
We all have it memorized already. No, we do not.
So the reason, I created this a couple of years ago, and Mayor, do you mind? But
Yes, please.
and actually about 6 months ago, there's a community member, not here in Cottonwood Heights, but just in Utah, that is going around suing currently 41 entities for violating the Open and Public Meetings Act. In particular, going into closed meeting properly. This outline follows the statutory criteria to a T. So that's why you can see that whoever wants to make a motion can read the top. Pick I usually will check the box that for the reason, and then it's a second roll call, and then the mayor will read the statement by the chair. Which this is the part that a lot of communities will kind of just brush over. And then that's it. So it's not hard, but this follows everything. And so it's kind of a template to use for moving forward.
Thank you. This is
Yes.
super.
So we can, we're gonna go into this closed meeting, we'll grab lunch or dinner
Yes.
and then come back, so I'll take a go. You can tell me if it's right or wrong, read along with me. I make a motion to temporarily recess the council meeting to go into a closed meeting for the following purposes. To discuss the purchase, exchange, or lease of real property, or to discuss a proposed development agreement, project proposal, or financing proposal related to the development of land owned by the city.
I'll second.
We need a roll call vote. So Councilmember Newell,
Yes.
Councilmember Highland,
Yes.
Councilmember Burrell.
Yes.
And Councilmember Fulton,
Yes.
and I also vote yes.
It's like, where does it say this?
And then council members Burrell, Fulton, Highland, and Newell voted for the motion. And council members, do I name them again?
No.
And no
one
council
voted
members.
against it.
And I voted. Okay, and no council members voted against the motion. The motion passes. The council will go into closed meeting to discuss the purchase, exchange, or lease of real property, or to discuss a proposed development agreement, project proposal, or financing proposal related to the development of land owned by the city.
Do we also need to name who's in the closed session?
Yeah, just like which staff members.
And it will be held in this room, and I know that we will have our city manager will be with us, I believe. Probably Scott
Yeah, Scott.
Jurgis,
The city attorney.
the city attorney, and Max Ship.
And
Because
Jim
someone,
Spong. We need Jim too, don't we?
I don't think so.
Or this,
This one is not.
okay.
And
Roger that.
then Chief Pilgrim will also be online with us.
Good. So Chief Pilgrim will be with us online.
And that the closed meeting will be held in this room.
In the work.
It will be held in this workroom.
So even though it doesn't state here that you name all the staff that'll be in the closed meeting, you just think that's thorough for us to do that?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's not in the technical requirements of code on how to go in a closed meeting, but I think for the record purposes, it's good to list on who's invited to that closed meeting.
Okay, so invited to the meeting and then, okay, got it.
Yeah.
Okay, then we're ready to move to that, to go get our meals and come back to this closed meeting. And we have plenty of time.